dialogue on navigating reality, the anatomy of experience. And today I would like to talk about how meditation and enlightenment, as understood in wisdom traditions, are connected. So that's what I would like to focus on today, and I can see that you are here with me, and so we start. Juliana, Carmina in Romania, warm hugs back. So today we talk about the connection between meditation and enlightenment. Now, even as I start, I'm not talking about the European Enlightenment. So, European Enlightenment, when we use that phrase, we are referring to a philosophical movement of the 18th century, characterized by belief in the power of human reason and by innovations in political, religious, and educational doctrine. So I'm not talking about that, okay? That is a whole different philosophical framework. I am today talking about enlightenment as understood in Eastern wisdom traditions. So let's examine that word, enlightenment. En, here, on, means becoming one. So enlightenment in wisdom traditions is becoming one with the light of awareness, becoming one with the light of all-knowing, becoming one with the light of all experience, becoming one with the source of all experienced reality, and also one with the reality which you're not currently experiencing or have not yet experienced. Enlightenment. So the light here is the light of awareness. So a couple of things before we even start, and these are as follows. The most basic fact of existence, the most basic fact of existence is really not existence. It is the awareness of existence. Once again, the most basic fact of existence is not existence, but the awareness of existence. Because without awareness of existence, there's no knowing of existence. The most basic fact of existence is awareness of existence. And what do we mean by existence here? By existence, we mean anything that exists. Anything that exists. And also the experience of anything that exists. So that's the most basic fact of existence, the awareness of existence. But the most basic fact of experience, the most basic fact of experience is sensation. I'll repeat that. The most basic fact of experience is sensations or sensation. We sense existence through modes of knowing. And I've spoken about these modes of knowing in the past, so I'm not going to keep repeating myself. I don't want to be too redundant, but modes of knowing are sensory perception, which is all kinds of sensations, okay? Sensation of color, form, shape, sound, taste, smell, texture, but also subtle sensations like thoughts, feelings, emotions, desires, images, subtle space-time events in awareness. These are modes of knowing. Your biological organism as a body-mind is basically an instrument for experience. Not only is your body-mind an instrument for experience, your body-mind is itself an experience. So the body-mind is not only an instrument for experience, but it also itself is an experience, because you know the body-mind in the same way you know anything else. And what is that? Sensation. Sensation. We sense colors, we sense tastes, smells, etc. It's all sensation. All experience is sensation. Movement is a change in sensation. Perception or different perceptions are changes in perception. Different thoughts are changes in subtle sensation. So everything that we call experience is a changing sensation. Now, with that, let's go to meditation as a clue to enlightenment. And enlightenment, once again, means right now being one with the source of all experience. And I just said, we know experience through sensation. Okay, so meditation also goes to the source of all sensation, any sensation, the source of thought, which is a subtle sensation, the source of emotions, the source of colors, sensory experiences, taste and smell and texture. All of that is sensation. Meditation allows you to go to the source of all experience, all knowingness, and become one with it. And when you become one with it, that is called enlightenment. One with the light of all knowing, all experience, all sensation. So let us go to the beginnings of meditation. Today I'm going to focus on the beginnings of meditation as understood in the meditative practice called mindfulness. Mindfulness. So originally, mindfulness in Sanskrit is called vipassana, which is also referred to as insight meditation. Insight. I-N-S-I-G-H-T. Insight meditation. That's what vipassana is. It gives you inner knowing, inner vision, inner seeing. What you're seeing is that which is seeing, ultimately, in meditation. But let's go back to the origins as understood in the vipassana traditions, which basically are the root of all Buddhist thinking and philosophy as well. So the Buddhist thinking and philosophy actually came from the experience of vipassana or mindfulness meditation, insight meditation. What is the most basic sensation? Actually, maybe that's not the right question. But let me rephrase it. What is the most fundamental of all sensations that gives rise to the experience of life? Anybody here can tell me what is the most fundamental sensation that gives rise to the experience of life? Anyone? What is the most fundamental sensation that gives rise to the experience of life? I'm waiting for a response from you guys. So, well, somebody said being content. No, that's a state of being, actually, fundamental speak. Somebody said thought. Maybe. Okay, let me share with you what I think is the most fundamental sensation. It's breath. We come into the world taking a breath. We leave the world with a breath. Inhale is the first sensation. Exhale is the last sensation. So now let's actually go to the experience of the Buddha. Imagine him sitting under the Bodhi tree. The Bodhi tree is a huge fig tree, which is very ancient, and he's in Bihar in India. He's sitting under the Bodhi tree, and the Buddha is just observing his breath. That's all. Okay, he's observing his breath. Actually, at this moment, let's imagine the Buddha observing his breath with eyes half open. Sometimes we see that image itself, okay? So he's observing the breath. And what does he observe? And what insight does he have as he observes the breath as a sensation? The insight he has is that this sensation arises in awareness, because he knows he's experiencing the sensation. He observes that this sensation arises in awareness, it's experienced in awareness, and then it subsides. In fact, it subsides as soon as it has finished arising, like a wave. The sensation arises and peaks, and then it subsides. Which sensation? The breath. Okay. And then he realizes that that's the nature of every experience. It arises, it is experienced, and then it subsides. As soon as it reaches its peak of knowingness, then it subsides. So just like a breath as a sensation arises and subsides, so do perceptions. Every perception, sound is experienced, it is known, subsides. Shapes, colors, forms, they arise, subside. Tastes, smells, textures, in awareness, they are snapshots of experience. As snapshots of experience, they are sensations that arise, reach a peak, and then they subside. So from this, the great enlightened being, the Buddha, comes to an amazing, simple conclusion. And what is that simple conclusion? Whatever is in the nature of arising is simultaneously of the nature of subsiding. That which arises subsides, always. Doesn't matter how short or how long that is. The universe is born, according to modern science, 14 billion years ago. It will subside at some point, either through the big crunch or just dissipate into nothingness, and then arise again. So whatever is of the nature of arising is not only the nature of subsiding, whatever is the nature of subsiding is also the nature of arising. The two go together. When the wave totally subsides, it is unmanifest. When it arises, it is manifest. So the unmanifest and the manifest go together. Okay. Always, always. You can't have one without the other. You can't have the manifest without the unmanifest. And there's no unmanifest without the manifest. But now just let's stick with the breath and the Buddha's experience as we imagine it. So from this, he arrives at what we might call the first Dharma seal, stamp of knowing, seal. And what's the first Dharma seal? It is that the relative experience, and all experience is relative, is impermanent, right? It is arising, subsiding. Sensations, images, feelings, thoughts, notions, ideas, everything, breath, all impermanent, right? First Dharma seal of the Buddha. So, from that, he comes to another conclusion. Okay, the second Dharma seal. And let me explain that, but let me just mention what the second Dharma seal is. The second Dharma seal is the separate self does not exist. Now, this is an amazing leap of understanding. Basically, by the way, that is what Vipassana is. It is insight leading to understanding. Okay? Insight leading to understanding. So what's the second Dharma seal? Dharma means knowing and aligning yourself with the elements and forces of the universe as they are experienced in you. Okay? So the second Dharma seal is the separate self doesn't exist. What is the separate self? It's the notion of I am a person. The separate self is the notion of I am a person instead of I am, and the person is an impermanent changing process in I am. So because the person is a changing process, the person is a changing process in awareness, then that person as a process is impermanent, like everything else. You experience your body as an intermittent stream of sensations and perceptions. You experience your body as an intermittent stream. They all arise, they all subside. So the person itself is a process that is impermanent, but everything that person also experiences is impermanent, right? So the separate self actually doesn't exist. Why is that? It doesn't exist because it's transient, it's ephemeral, it's changing, it's evanescent, it's ungraspable. It's over before you even experience it. Every sensation, by the way, is over by the time you experience it. So by the time you experience sensations, what you're experiencing is memories of sensations. You interpret the sensation because of memory. So your body is a memory. So is the world a memory. Everything you observe, those paintings behind me, your own thoughts, your own images, your own sensations, everything you're experiencing, including your body, is impermanent. And actually, fundamentally, does not exist. How can you say something exists when it's over by the time you know it? Okay? And by the time you have any experience, any sensation, you've already filtered it through a memory. You're not experiencing reality, you're experiencing a memory. Okay, so that leads to the second Dharma seal. The first one was the relative is impermanent. The second is the separate self does not exist. That's a huge one. The ego identity, the self-image, all your ideas about yourself actually are not real. They're just ideas based on an intermittent stream of sensations, images, feelings, and thoughts. And then the third Dharma seal, Nirvana is the ultimate reality. So what does that mean? Nirvana. Nirvana, nirvana, absence of sensation, is the ultimate reality. Because the absence of the sensation is the source of the sensation. Quite simple. Nirvana is the ultimate reality. The absence of sensation is the source of all sensation. Okay. The absence of sensations of the body is actually the experience that we call bliss. The absence of sensations that we call the agitated mind is equanimity. The absence of bodily sensations is bliss, transcendence, the source of every sensation. That's what happens when people have orgasm. for example. They transcend all sensation. That's why in many traditions, orgasm is the little death. Death of what? Sensation. To the source of all sensation. So just like equanimity is the background of agitated minds, positive or negative, doesn't matter, turbulent minds, equanimity is the background. Then the absence of bodily sensations is bliss, ecstasy, joy, transcendence. The absence of sound is silence. And silence is the background of all experience. So silence, source, light of awareness, being, all this ecstasy, joy, transcendence, all of that is nirvana, the ultimate enlightenment, being one with the source of all knowing and all experience. Imagine the depth of understanding that the Buddha came to just by observing the breath, the original mindfulness practice. Now we can do that mindfulness practice in many ways, but just observing the breath is the clue to reality. Today, let me just summarize the three Dharma seals. The relative is impermanent. The separate self does not exist. Nirvana is the ultimate reality. Okay, now I go a little deeper, and I'll maybe stop there for today, and we can continue this conversation tomorrow, if you like it. Okay, if you like it. So from this simple insight, the three Dharma seals, Buddha also came to the origins of suffering and the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths. Let me explain the Four Noble Truths first. So here they are as I understand them. The first Noble Truth is there is suffering. Okay, we know there is suffering. We see it right now in the world with pandemic 19, with violence, with racism, with extinction of species, with war, with terrorism. So no one can deny the first noble truth. There is suffering. Now, many commentators on Buddhism actually translate that as life is suffering. I don't think the Buddha said that, and I've spoken to many scholars, and they agree that the Buddha did not say life is suffering. He said there is suffering, just like there is other experiences. There's joy, there's pleasure, there's pain. There's up, there's down. So there is suffering. First noble truth. Second noble truth, the origins, the root cause, the nature and arising of suffering can be identified. Amazing. Through vipassana, through insight, through understanding. Third noble truth, there is a way out of suffering. The path to enlightenment, which we'll get to later. And fourth, yeah, there he is, the path to enlightenment, marga. Marga means path, the way. The marga, the path, is from suffering to peace, from suffering to peace, from the separate self to the whole self. Therefore, the path to joy and freedom. That's the path to enlightenment. Okay, that is very basic Buddhist understanding by observing the breath, vipassana, meditation, breath awareness. I think I'll go a little further because Buddha then identified the origins of suffering, which he called, in Sanskrit, they're called dukkha, dukkha, dukkha. So he says there is suffering that arises out of pain. I think that is easy to understand. Then there is suffering arising from pleasure, because, pleasure is very enjoyable when it arises, when it is known. But then when it subsides, then the absence of pleasure creates suffering. So there's the origins of suffering. Suffering arising from pain, suffering arising from pleasure. Second. Third, suffering arising from impermanence. We're trying to grasp that which is ungraspable. The arising and subsiding of sensation. Okay, so suffering arising from out of impermanence, and then finally suffering arising from the 5 aggregates that constitute the constricted self. Once again, suffering arising from the 5 aggregates that constitute the constricted I. I am Deepak Chopra. That's the constricted I. The ego identity. Well, that's it. Those are the causes, origins of suffering. And so when I communicate tomorrow with you, we'll go into the 5 aggregates that ultimately construct the separate self, the ego identity. And having deep understanding and insight and vipassana into the nature of that will help us go beyond suffering to joy, go beyond the separate self to the whole self, go beyond knowing sensation to understanding the source of all sensations, and therefore the source of all experience. I will stop here today, and tomorrow I will continue with the 5 aggregates that create the separate self, the 5 aggregates that create this illusionary self, which is at the root of all suffering. We'll do that tomorrow, okay? Because there's a lot to grasp today. Now, a lot of people got in late and they missed the first part of this. Don't worry, it's going to be there online, on Facebook, on YouTube, on many channels, including LinkedIn and other channels. So go back to it and please grasp and understand what I've shared with you today. And then tomorrow we will continue. Ramanand Dikshit says yes. So yes, we'll continue. Somebody said Nirvana is ultimate reality. Yes, it is ultimate reality. It's also bliss. Okay, it's also bliss. It's also joy. It's also enlightenment. Yes, somebody mentioned Thich Nhat Hanh as having taught these ideas in an amazing way. Thich Nhat Hanh, amazing human being. My respect and my privilege to have known him and met him. Ramanand Dikshit says, I am always free. I am is always free, but I am Deepak Chopra is not free. So that's the distinction. Okay, my friends. Let us continue tomorrow. Okay? Thank you.